It's that time of year. Load up my gun. Put on
All right,
my
today's
gear.
guest is truly tougher than life in numerous ways, and I'm excited to have him on to share all of his experiences with you. He spent 20 years as a Navy SEAL sniper. He led his teams through Iraq, Afghanistan, commanding special operations task units, and has been a platoon commander in the Southern Philippines. Since leaving the military, he's become a New York Times best-selling author. And through his books, we get to see a look at military life in and out of the military, as well as family, hunting, the outdoors, and fitness. He's a patriot, a lover of freedom, but more than any of that, he's more than an author, more than a sniper, more than an outdoorsman. He is a devoted, loving husband and father. I am pumped today to have on Jack Carr. Welcome, Jack. Thanks for coming on.
Oh man, thanks for having me on. I love talking about all this stuff, and what's so cool about podcasts is I get to meet new people that we wouldn't have like an excuse to get together otherwise. But this gives us an excuse to connect and talk, and that's my favorite part of kind of the new media as they call it. And I noticed the shirt. So the Sornex shirt, of course,
Yes,
Bert is
sir.
an amazing guy, and he just sent a bunch of workout stuff out to the set of The Terminalist with Chris Pratt in LA because they're building out a portion of one of the sets, and it's James Reese, my protagonist, his garage. And they're like, well, what would you put in your garage? And so I gave a list of things, and I started connecting them to different people that could send out some stuff and make this thing look cool. And Bert sent out some awesome stuff, and there's a bunch of SEALs on the set doing helping technical advising or acting or being SEALs like in the train, and they all started using it to actually work out. So it's super cool.
Dude, that is awesome because Bert's an amazing guy. And I like what he always says. He's a collector of people. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you're around Bert, like you're there for a reason. You're a good person. And I think he's one of those guys that's if you're good, he'll keep you around. And if you're, and if you're not worth being around, I don't know if you're going to be around Bert. He's a super good dude, and that's pretty cool that they're equipping everybody on the set. So
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I want to
yeah,
make sure we got Sornex stuff in there, and yeah, I got like Josh Hall surfboards, got his stuff in there. Got some of some Jocko stuff in there. Got a PSE bow from Don Dudley in there. Got Winkler not like we got a whole bunch of cool stuff, gear, and a lot of veteran owned companies that I guess hopefully showcase some of their stuff as well, and win for everybody.
yeah. I mean, and let's. I mean,
Oh,
just
did I lose
dive
you?
in. No, are you there?
There you go. There we
All
go.
right. Yeah, and I just want to dive in a little bit on, I mean, on your books. One of the things I like to write myself, and I always think about Hemingway's quote. There's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. And and as a writer, you've now gone through a lot of, let's say, a lot of writing, and and more of the writing aspect. But how do you write and then manage that, I guess, that lover of freedom and the outdoors and guns, but yet in that writing publisher, even now into the television realm? How are you kind of managing that? Because I know everybody today is worried about getting canceled and all that stuff. And I think that's something that is very applicable to just when we're living that tough life. We're living and we're doing things that are hard. We talked about Bert and working out and being in the outdoors. It's all hard stuff. But being a writer, somebody don't think the mental aspect is not hard, but it truly is.
Yeah, so on that, I do think about that because this cancel culture, quote unquote, is so prevalent today, and in some of the industries in which I work, you see it more so than in some other industries. But I don't change anything that I'm doing because of that. And I told my wife just recently, I'm like, hey, let's not let it be a surprise when we get canceled at the touch of a button, when a contract's not renewed or we're deplatformed somewhere, because you don't even need to say anything political. You don't even need to say advocate for anything that some segments of society are not supportive of. They know The big tech knows how long you hover over a picture of a knife or a gun, even if you don't hit the like button. Like they've got that. They know, they've segmented society, and they know exactly who we are, and what you like and what you dislike and all that. So that part's done. But in the I try to be thoughtful about what I do, because that's what I think I owe my readers. If someone's trusted me with their time enough to read a 125,000 word book, or listen to 13 hours of an audiobook, or just trusted me with following me on Instagram, or whatever it might be, like I owe them something of value, and I owe them the requisite time, energy, and effort into the research and thought behind what I'm going to say. So I try to frame everything in that, and I just try to be thoughtful, and that's the best I can do. If I'm gonna get canceled, I'm gonna get canceled. That's just how it goes. But I'm not gonna change what I'm writing about or how I write about it because I'm worried about getting canceled. Because there is that. I mean, authenticity is an overused term, but that's because there's not a better word for it. And people can tell. Like, you can write safe and not weave any part of yourself into these things, I guess. I don't do that. Or you can be apolitical, or just be worried about that the adage of, hey, Republicans and Democrats, they both buy Nikes, or whatever that was. I don't subscribe to that at all, because it's not me. And the power of these novels is that people can trust me. They trust that I'm not doing that sort of thing, but they also trust I'm going to be thoughtful and try to be appropriate and try to be respectful. And that's just, and that's me. I don't have to, that's not me pretending to be somebody else. And today, you could have maybe gotten away with pretending to be somebody else 30 years ago, but today, if you're engaging on these social platforms and you're doing a podcast like this, there's no way for you to be somebody that you're not. Like, it's just, that would be so difficult. I don't know how someone could possibly do it. I guess people try, but I don't. It would be exhausting. That'd be exhausting, and I gotta save all my energy to focus in on these novels and make them the best they can possibly be.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's one of those, growing up, if you tell one lie, then you have to tell a lie to cover that one up, and you just keep going that list. And I think that if you're not authentic, if you're not true and genuine, like, and it comes through in your books, that I really love that. And one of the things that stuck out to me in the books is there are things that say, like, James quotes his father or quotes different people. And one of the quotes that I want to dive in, and I think it's true, maybe true to your life, and maybe where did it come from, is Thomas Reese, James Reese's father. He's quoted as saying, "Life is hard. If you stay with it and keep moving forward, you will prevail. Never quit." And that was a quote that Thomas Reese, you put in the book. And I just wondered if that came from somewhere in your life, or if that was, one of those, just the muse hit you.
Yeah, so I have versions of that I've woven into, I think, a couple of the novels and a few Instagram posts, different interviews, that sort of thing. But a guy told me, a former Army Special Forces sniper told me years and years ago, before I was even in the military, he said, "Hey, you don't want to just survive anything. You just don't want to survive a gunfight. Like, you get shot, that thing's on. The fight's really on now." He's like, "You're not here to survive. You're here to prevail." And that stuck with me, because there's a difference between just surviving and prevailing. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything. It can be. It doesn't have to be a fight. It can be anything in life. And so I've always framed in my head, hey, it's not just about surviving going to Iraq or Afghanistan. It's not just about surviving after getting knocked down. It's not just none of these things are just about surviving. That's a low bar. But prevailing, that's different. And so I try to weave that into the novels as well.
Yeah, and that was actually the next quote that I had thought about, was you wrote, "A fight is not about surviving but prevailing." And that's true to life, because I mean, like you said, surviving, you're just, "Oh, I'm making it through life." Great, but you got to come out on top, and that's tough. And one of the ways we can do that is to be prepared and to be ready and to make ourselves ready. And I know you, through your military career and even afterwards, and even in your books, we see, James Reese, where he's still working out and he's still doing the things. But what does your fitness regimen look like? And even in the book, you talk about, I think, James, they're talking about how, fitness is perishable, and how they're getting, how fitness as you age can change. And a little bit about maybe how you trained when you were in the military and then post military when you're just training for a big hunt or something like that.
Yeah, so all my life, everything I did, even if it was a school sport or something like that, I always looked at it through the lens of how is this going to help me be more prepared to go into the military. So even at a very young age, I looked at things like that, whether it was soccer or lacrosse, cross country running in particular, which was very beneficial, not just for the military, but just for life in general, because you got to push through this painful endurance of running up hills at altitude, that sort of thing. Throwing on a backpack, heading into the backcountry with my parents, it's like those things are tough, and they are character building, and they help me as I went along, not just in life, but particularly in the military, but in life, in general as well. So I was an early into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the early 90s, before anybody had really even heard of it, well before the UFC, and into boxing, of course. All those things that I thought would make me a better warrior, a better combat leader going forward. So I've always been on the functional side of things. Even in high school, even in the 80s, I would get home and ride my bike home. I do hill sprints. Would do doing pull-ups like under the basketball hoop, not the hoop part, but the part that like connects, to the pole, and like pulling myself up with my hands at different areas, because I'd seen these pictures of guys running obstacle courses and in the military, and I'm like, oh, look at that, they're climbing this a cargo net. I don't have a cargo net in my backyard, but what do I have? Okay, I have like a play structure thing back here from when I was a kid. Well, I can do some certain things on there to kind of mimic what they're doing. I can put a rope up in a tree. I can rappel down. I can get on the roof. I can shoot my bow down at different angles when my heart's racing. So I tried to do things that I thought, so it's functional fitness, or CrossFit or whatever, now. But back then it was just me, looking at Soldier of Fortune magazine and seeing what the guys were doing in these training programs and being like, oh, how can I do this in my backyard to better prepare me? How do I get my heart rate up with these hill sprints and then come back down and knock out 20 pull-ups, because I was like light as a feather back then, and so just cranking out pull-ups, and of course we didn't know anything about nutrition back then, so I'd go in then and have like a ramen noodle, that no one knew. You didn't know you had to have protein.
Yeah.
It would have been really helpful if I had known that. Or you have a potato, like we didn't know. Carbo loading, you got a carbo load before the big game and that sort of stuff. So you thought pasta, lots of pasta is healthy. So yeah, we didn't know anything about that. But then the military, of course, you're doing all the more traditional type military exercises and buds. You're carrying the boats, you're carrying the logs, you're climbing. And it was similar at my first SEAL team. Like fitness was lift as heavy as you can, as hard as you can, and then run as far as you can, as fast as you can. That was pretty much what we did when I first got to my SEAL team in October of 1997. We still hadn't quite figured it out yet. And then we drink a lot of beer. So that was like that was the workout regimen. And then I forget when I found out about CrossFit. I think someone sent me an email on it in like early 2003 maybe. And so then I started, and then a lot of special operations, a lot of SWAT teams, police departments, firefighters started to do this thing and get into the functional fitness side of things. And then we brought in some trainers that kind of knew more about this functional fitness space and tailoring workouts to what we were actually going to do downrange in body armor, climbing through windows, putting ladders up over compound walls, this sort of thing, carrying guys if they're shot, whatever you might need to do. So then I went all in on the functional fitness side of things, and really did that for the rest of my time in the military. And then when I got out, I was good for like the first year. So the first year I got up here to Park City, and oh my gosh, Park City, Utah, people here are in some good shape. We thought we were in good shape. We got out of the car when we first showed up, just in the parking lot at the grocery store. My wife and I are looking around, and we're like, oh my gosh, look at these guys. Everybody's like trail running and mountain biking and backcountry skiing, and they're here for that healthy lifestyle. And the Whole Foods here does very well. And luckily I had some buddies up here that are all about maximizing human performance, whether it physical, emotional, spiritual. And we had this workout crew, about 5 or 6 of us, that would get up and we start working out at 5 in the morning, and they do the programming, and they're frigging monsters. They're savages. And so I did that for like the first year, and that was okay with when the book came out, my first novel, and then through the first book tour. But as soon as it was and writing the second and then launching the second, having two and writing the third and juggling all this, I had to prioritize. So I've been doing a lot more typing these days than I've been doing working out. But I hope to get to a point where I can reprioritize things. But right now, it is all about making the novels the best they can be. I'm consulting on the scripts, going out to LA, consulting on set, writing the fifth novel right now, launching the fourth. Like, there's a lot going on. I have a podcast, Danger Close Beyond the Books with Jack Carr, that just launched. So lots going on, and but hopefully I'll get to this stage where I looked at it kind of as a startup, like you're starting up a company in your garage, and you got to hustle. I mean, you got to sprint, you got to build, you got to maximize different opportunities. You have to do this thing because no one's going to do it for you. Even writing, I thought writing was you write a book, you send it to New York, they publish it, and you start your second book. I didn't realize you have to do everything you have to do with any other business, from budgets to advertising to marketing to social media to engagement. You have to do all of these things, and you have to have this product that is second to none. So point being, prioritize that right now, and but I want to get to the stage where it's moved out of the garage and get some build in some processes that make things more efficient and effective, and then kind of be able to take a breath and reprioritize things and get back on the workout routine, because right now it's been a lot more typing. My hands are in pretty good shape though. My fingers are in good shape.
And that's good. I mean, but like you said, it's one of those, you're in a great spot where people around you are fit and healthy. So it's a little easier to even if you say you're slacking, I'm sure that you're going to be able to hang with most folks out there. And like you said, I mean, you have to prioritize. And I think that's one key thing that we don't do enough of. We try to do everything. I do all the time. Like, I got 100 things on my list, and they're all number one. And then you just start spinning wheels, and by the end of the day, it's like, I got nothing done. So, and I've heard you talk about, like, you have your, you have your fourth, the devil's hand is coming out, and then you're already working on the fifth, and heard you mention, like, there might be a sixth, and down the road you've got this big picture. And how do you kind of prioritize? Because I mean, life is just, it's one of those things that life is just tough, and it's like we said, we have to prevail over it. But in order to prioritize things, do you have a system, or do you have a way that you think about, like, all right, this is the one thing that has to be done first, or the one thing to do today?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And I got that from Jocko, actually. He put me through two of my pre-deployment workups, and prioritize and execute. That was I lost you. I lost your video. Is it still going?
I think we're still recording.
Still recording. Keep going. All right. So I don't see you anymore, but I see myself in the upper right-hand corner. So point being, as part of that workup, Jocko passed on to me, hey, when things are chaotic, you're in this firefight, things are going crazy. As a leader, take a breath, look around, make a call. And I've incorporated that into the novels as well. And then he said, hey, when you have multiple crises to deal with, you prioritize and execute. So that's what I do on a daily basis, is that prioritization. Like today, we're doing this. And then I have a bunch of books out there that need signing, that need to get to independent bookstores. So I have 400 books to sign out there that are going to one of these bookstores in Phoenix. And so I'll do that. Just work my way down this list. And there's a lot going on. But yeah, for sure, around book launch time, a lot of a lot of prioritization. Then the rest of the year, the priority is writing the novels, and everything else supports that. So yeah, you gotta take a breath, gotta prioritize it, or I think you do anyway. Because if you're trying to do 1,000 things at the same time, then that's difficult. I guess I'll say that. So prioritizing those things and then knocking them off one at a time. That seems to work for me.
Yeah, that's great, because I mean, you have so many projects, as you have, like you said, the podcast, the books, and you have you're in Hollywood now, and you're doing all these things that are really impressive, and everybody looks at all that, but they don't see the hard work that went behind it. And they don't see, maybe, everybody's like, oh, and that whole, like, it must be nice kind of mentality. But the thing is like, yeah, it is nice when I'm there. Like, I'm sure it's real nice whenever you're hanging out with Chris Pratt on set, and you're cracking jokes and you're having fun and you're showing him something about, maybe you're showing him how to hold a pistol properly or how to move like you would move or how James Reese would move. And you're maybe showing him something that must be nice. It is, but you've done the work. You went through the struggle, the tough times, and now you get to reap the benefits.
Yeah, and the work doesn't really stop. I haven't gotten to that stage yet where I feel like I can take a breath, or I can feel like people keep asking me, how's it feel to have your book made into a series on Amazon starring Chris Pratt? And I was like, it feels great. Okay. And I'm on to the next thing. Like, there's just so much going on. I haven't taken a second to breathe, really, because I feel like, I don't know if I'll ever really feel like I can take a breath. I'm not sure, but I certainly haven't thus far, because you got to put in that work. So regardless, if someone cracks the door for you, you have to be ready to kick that door in. You can't just sit around and think, oh man, if only somebody would give me a break. Okay, well, you got to be ready when someone extends that hand, when someone cracks that door, or someone invites you to something, and whatever it might be. Like, you have to have done the work. So the baseline of all of this is doing the work, because without it, if someone cracks that door, you squandered the opportunity. So regardless if someone cracks the door for you or not, you have to do that work. You have to be prepared. So that's the constant. There's some other things you can't control, so don't worry about those. Worry about what you can worry about and what you can affect and impact, which is doing the work, which is dedicating yourself to your craft, whatever that might be, so that when that opportunity comes along, or when someone cracks that door, or when you see that opportunity and make it happen, then you are ready. You weren't just sitting around lamenting the fact that life is tough and no one's giving you a break. You know what? Yeah, you can do that. But if you're not doing the work, when someone does give you the break, guess what's not happening? You're not able to kick in that door.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect, because I'm kind of going through that right now, some career changes, some life changes, things going on, but it's partly because of the things I've done up until now. I mean, I had an opportunity, like we talked about, to go out to spend time with Bert Soren at Winter Strong. Well, the only reason that I had that opportunity was because of the things that I had done, and then when Bert extends that opportunity, I was like, yeah, like I can do this because I've put other work in, and I have 3 days I can just take off and go. And I think that's one of those things
Yeah.
that just, we have to be ready in that opportunity. The lifespan of an opportunity is small. And I think that we have to be ready for that. And I think that's just one of those things, you have to attack
Oh
it
yeah.
and never be afraid of a challenge.
That's right. Yeah, there's going to be challenges. You're going to get knocked down. There's going to be failures along the way, and that's what it is. So don't let it be a surprise when that happens. Kind of like
Yeah.
me telling my wife about the cancel thing. Like it should not be a surprise, or it is. Like, don't let that be a shock. Like, prepare for it now, which is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But also the part about getting knocked down. Like, we all know that's going to happen. You hear that from everyone, and you have to keep up and keep moving forward. Yes, check. But what is also important is how you get back up and keep moving forward. You can just get back in check, or you can get up in a way where you think about how your actions and how your example, or how your rebound, whatever it might be, is going to affect those around you. It's going to affect your kids, your family, your circle, whether that's 2 people, whether that's 5 people, whether that's 10 million people. So the way you get back up and keep moving forward is almost just as important as getting back up and doing it, because you really don't have a choice of getting back up and doing it. Like, that eventually you'll come to that conclusion when you're knocked down. Like, you have to get back up. There's no other choice. It's just, you get to choose how long you're going to stay down, but eventually you will have to get up and keep moving forward. But you get to choose how you do it. That's what's important.
That's so true. And I think as a father, as a leader of your house, like, that is something that, your wife, your kids, they're looking to you for that. And it's not only how you handle maybe the negative things, but also the positive things. And one thing I've loved about watching you is the way that you, as an author, like somebody in the public eye, like, you have a lot of keyboard ninjas coming at you, and the way you handle the negative and the negative reviews, has, like, that has cracked me up, because, you got people that are mad because, in the book, you've got like spots that are blacked out because you turn in the DOD and they're like, oh, we got to redact that, and you leave it in there, and people are, excuse me, people are mad because, there's a black spot and they don't understand. Like, if you'd have read the intro, it says, hey, I, did this, but I love how you're handling those negative things, but also like, you're not the positive things, the great things that happen in life. You're not getting too big for your britches, as my papa would say, when the accolades come. And I think that's really important. But just, I would love you to share with a little bit about the negative reviews and how you kind of take that and spin it for the good.
Yeah, I mean, it's people think just because you're a SEAL, you have this really thick skin or whatever else, but I don't. So a negative review, especially when they're mean spirited, those definitely hurt. And when you're reviewing, so if you were going to write a review 30 years ago, you'd have to read the book first, then you'd have to sit down, you'd have to write a letter to an editor, you'd have to find the address, you'd have to stamp the envelope, put the address on, go to the mailbox, mail that letter. It would have to arrive at the newspaper or the magazine. It would have to find its way then to the desk of that editor, and then in the stack of everything else coming across their desk, they'd have to open that, they'd have to read it, the entire thing, and then decide that it was so good that they should put it in. It was so thoughtful, had so many insights that it would go then in the letter to the editor. So that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it exists, but not on social platforms where there are no barriers to entry. You could be as crazy or as mean-spirited as you want, and there is no editor reading that and saying, oh, this person didn't even read the novel and they're just an insane person. Guess what happens to that? Trash, if they even open it. But today, guess what? It's all out there, and people don't even need to read the book. They can, just say, "Oh, I saw this person on Tucker Carlson, and he said we should be prepared for our own defense of ourselves and our families. Oh, he must be, a right-wing conspiracy theorist, and I'm going to go and say how horrible this book is, and nobody should write it and read it." And that exists, like that's there. And then you get people that like Amazon delivered my package a day late, 1 star. Like you get all those. So there's some wonderful things about these platforms and social media. Like we get to do this. I get to thank people who took a risk on me as a new author and told a friend about it. And I try to thank everybody. I stay up so late after everybody's bed. I'm like, thank you. I try to thank everybody, or at least give that heart, because I do sincerely appreciate everybody who took that risk and told a friend. That means so much to me. It allows me to do what I love. But then you get those ones that are like, they're so mean, or so, mean spirited. And what's fascinating to me about that psychology is that someone chose to use their limited time on this planet, especially on like Amazon, to write a 3-paragraph dissertation on how much they despise you. That's how they chose to spend their time. Like they could have, especially with something subjective like art, writing, that's a subjective thing, obviously. So to attack somebody for something that's subjective, like you chose to spend this valuable time that you have on this earth. You don't know how much you have. You don't know if you're going to make it to tomorrow. You don't know if you have another month or you have 10 years. You have no idea. But you chose to be so negative and tear someone down with that time. And you could have chosen to hand somebody. You could have chose to be positive, or just to like, if you read a first paragraph in my book, you're going to know if you're going to like it or not. Like, don't keep reading. Like, don't go to the end. If you didn't like the first page, don't continue. Stop. Don't waste your time. You're not going to like it if you don't like the first chapter or the prologue. I'll save you that time right now. But instead, they go through the whole thing and they're just mad, and they type angry and then they post it and it's a 1 star and you're a horrible person and all this. Whether they could have just like read the first page or and you don't have to buy it to read the first thing. You can go to my website and you can read excerpts from the prologue and the first chapter and the third chapter. You can test it out. You can listen to the first few chapters in an Audible sample. So you don't even have to make that investment of this time. So the psychology of it really is fascinating to me and gives me a lot to work with in characters, and also gives me a lot to work with as far as examples with my kids. About being able to choose how you're going to impact people, choose the way you're going to go through life. That's all on you. It's on no one else. So those negative reviews are fascinating. But the other side is, hey, I get to engage with you. I get to engage on social media. I get to thank people. I get to build a readership through this engagement that you couldn't have done 30 years ago. Flip side of that is, the crazy people can also post whatever they want, and that's just a part of it. And that's I kind of look at it as all. Hey, it's wonderful to be able to engage, and that's just a part of it that comes along with that engagement.
Yeah, I agree. And I've had people tell me that, their website was shut down or their Facebook was canceled and all this other stuff. And it was kind of funny. I was like, dude, you built your business on a free platform, and then all of a sudden they shut it down. I was like, like you've made a lot of money on a free platform pretty much. And so it's like, it's one of those, like you said, you got to take the positive and the negative at the same time. And I think for our kids, which you mentioned, as a father with our kids, how are how are you taking some of this that you're learning along the way that you have learned and passing it on to them? Just that, life is tough and you've got to persist and overcome.
Yeah, hopefully a lot of it's by example, in that they see that we made this transition from the SEAL teams to the private sector, that I followed this calling that I've had in life from a very early age, both to serve my country in uniform, and then to follow that next passion, which was writing, and then to make that something that hopefully is positive for the most part for people, but that also allows us to build some financial freedom, which is important today. And so hopefully they're seeing some of this, and they're completely unimpressed by everything. The SEAL thing, New York Times bestselling author. They're a little bit impressed with Chris Pratt. Chris made my daughter a like a minute long video, and a little while ago, a couple of years ago, actually, when we're getting to know each other, and so I was cool for like that minute. But then, yeah, completely unimpressed with all of this from the kids' side of things, and that's just how it goes, which is fantastic. I love it. Just dad to them, just goofy dad who's embarrassing, especially to our 15-year-old. But that's the job of a dad. So yeah, I just try to share the journey with them. Hopefully, the example. I mean, they do see me working a lot because I do work from home right now. So they do see that, and hopefully their only memory of me isn't going to be how hard I worked, but they just say, "Hey, look, he made time for us. We went hunting together. We went these river trips together. We did all these things together as a family, and somehow my parent, my wife and me, we work this out, and work hard to build this foundation." So hopefully they're taking those kind of lessons, but then we do also, I do talk to them about more practical things, as far as being prepared, being self-reliant, how that's our responsibility as citizens to put the requisite time, energy, and effort into the study of history, so that we can make good decisions, for wise decisions for future generations, because that's what we owe our kids, grandkids, their kids. We owe that time, energy, and effort, and that's really what I think is missing, and what social media definitely does not help with, is, hey, retweeting a 1 or 2 sentence um, take or position on something that's semi-incendiary, and then that becomes your position because you're trusting whoever it was that you're following, who probably also didn't spend the time, energy, and effort to research the history behind a certain position, and then that's yours, and now you've tweeted it out to however many followers you have. So we're doing future generations a disservice by not spending time in the pages of these books, not understanding, why why we have the freedoms that we do, why the country was set up the way it was, what natural rights are guaranteed by our founding documents. They're not granted by the government; they're natural rights, and so we're just missing a lot of that, and it just makes it. We're just not doing any favors for future generations, and so I try to remain positive as much as I can, but I do have serious concerns about where we are headed as a nation. That's for sure.
Oh, and as do I. And even though I heard you on your podcast talk about how you're starting to collect trying to get some old encyclopedias, because I think a quote you said was precision in language, precision in thought, and how, a
That's right.
word in the 50s means something totally, quote unquote, means something totally different today. And I think that's something that the next generation, it's up to us, whether it be hunting, whether it be living up, setting a good example as a family, as a leader. I think that's up to us. If we don't do it, you know, our kids are going to be, we're doing our kids a disservice.
Yep. No, absolutely. It's for a very slim portion of all of human history have we been able to outsource our food, how we get that food, and how we protect ourselves, our families, our communities. The smallest part of human history has this been the case. When something happens, like a natural disaster, a pandemic, civil unrest, it's can be a shock to people. So that's another one we talked to the kids about, just understanding, hey, this has not been the norm for all of human history. It is now, but society is fragile, and here's the examples of that. Here's a riot. Here's a hurricane. Here is an earthquake. Here is a pandemic. That just goes. Those are reminders of how fragile society is. But we've gotten comfortable in this country, really, probably from the end of World War II up to today, with that safety and security that we assume is always going to be there as the government takes more and more control, which they do not give back. But studying that history and realizing that, hey, this is not the norm, and if it is not, then maybe I should be prepared. Maybe I should teach my kids to be self-reliant. Maybe we should get into the pages of some of this history so that we can understand where these options and opportunities came from in this country, that we're sitting at subjects. What does that mean? Discussing those things with our kids, because they certainly aren't going to get that in most schools anyway. And that's our responsibility as parents, to prepare them for the road ahead, not in a way that's paranoid, but in a way that is appropriate and allows them to realize, hey, I need to pick my head up out of this phone. I need to maintain situational awareness. I need to be self-reliant. I need to be educated, and I need to learn from my mistakes and my failings, so I apply those lessons forward as wisdom. And so there's all those sorts of things that are all very basic, but that tend to get lost, especially in the distraction, all the electronic distractions of today.
Yeah. Simple and basic, but not common. Like common sense is not common anymore. And you're talking about like adjusting and adapting. And in your new book, like, it's amazing. I was pumped to be able to dive into this. Like, you had to make I got a feeling that you made some changes over the past year before you turned this out, because you mentioned things that have happened recently, and that's so cool that you're able to, and I know that your kids and are seeing that, like, oh, like dad changed like what you're doing. Like I said, I know they're not impressed by anything, but one day they're like, oh, like dad adapted and overcame, that. And that's so cool that you're able to do that. And because the Devil's Hand, the new book, is it's blowing me away. I'm a yeah, for a dyslexic, really slow reader. I'm getting through it, but I'm really pumped about the audio version coming out too.
Awesome. Yeah. Ray Porter is the best. He's just an amazing guy. The narrator, that audiobook, he's just fantastic. But yeah, so I outlined this book in August of 2019 on my way to and from Russia, where I was doing research for my last novel, Savage Son. So I knew I needed to go to Kamchatka Peninsula, just south of Siberia, where a lot of the action in Savage Son takes place. But I left my computer behind. I left my phone behind, because I didn't want to walk through customs and have either Russian intelligence services either take them physically or to suck everything out electronically as I'm walking through there. So I brought a notepad and I just wrote out the outline for this novel as part of that. And the basis for it was something I thought about while I was in the SEAL teams, what I continue to think about today as a citizen, as an author, which is, what has the enemy learned by watching us on the field the last 20 years at war? So essentially, we've been playing poker. They've been circling the table, looking at our cards, seeing how we play them. And they've had 20 years to do that and take those lessons and apply them to future battle plans. So I thought, okay, what if I was Iran? What if I'm North Korea? What if I'm China? What if I'm Russia? What if I'm a super empowered individual? What if I'm a terrorist organization? What lessons would I have taken? So that was the basis. And that was August of 2019. And then I got back from that trip and I started researching infectious diseases and the weaponization of infectious diseases, really from the end of World War II, with what the Japanese and the Germans had done. What happened to that data? What happened to that research? How did it inform the bioweapon programs of the Soviet Union and the United States? What did the bioweapons conventions of the 70s mean? And so I'm doing that research. So I'm hypersensitive when COVID hits. So COVID hits, and I get inklings of it. I first hear about it in December. Of course, near the end of January, I'm hearing more about it. February, of course, everyone's hearing about it. But as I'm writing, the whole basis is, what's the enemy learned over this time period. And guess what? They're learning now. They are learning from our response to COVID. So that became so as I'm writing, now that becomes a part of the storyline. And guess what? Bam, we have a summer of civil unrest. And guess what? The enemy is looking at that too. And they are taking lessons from that. They're applying those lessons to future battle plans. Then we have a very contentious political season and election cycle. Once again, they're not just looking at this with passing interest, they are taking lessons and applying it. So because of what the novel was about, there was no way not to incorporate those things in. And then in about October, November, I ran into an issue. And that was, gosh, I've been in the enemy's shoes here now for over a year, thinking about this, writing about this, researching. If I was the enemy, I might just watch us. We're doing a pretty good job destroying ourselves, tearing ourselves apart from the inside. And so I was like, oh, geez, now I got to solve that problem here on the written page. And so I came up with a tool to necessitate the enemy needing to take action now while we're kind of on our knees here. But I had to solve it. Had to solve that problem. So yeah, it was very natural for me to incorporate the events of the last year, because that was the basis of the novel that I came up with in August of 2019.
Yeah, I was starting to think that you're kind of a fortune teller, or, instead of a crystal ball, maybe, the hatchet or axe back there on the wall might be like your crystal ball. You kind of rub it and it tells you the future. So I was going to ask you what I need to invest in next, because I mean, the things you write about are like, I'm like, man, this guy's knows the future or something.
It was crazy. I mean, unfortunately, we can take some educated guesses on the way things are heading in a few different aspects, but it never hurts to have tomahawks. Never hurts
No,
to be surrounded by weapons.
never,
Surrounded
never.
by weapons and books. This whole wall in front of me here that you can't see is filled with books and shelves that go 3 deep. So in our next house, I'll have a library that's a little better situated, so I don't have to go 3 deep on these things and reach back and try to find a book at the third level back there. But yeah, weapons and books. Those are some of my favorite things.
Yeah, so my wife was wanting to put some shelves up in the house, and I was like, well, we're planning, if we move, like, why do we want to do that? And so she's like, yeah, you need a library because your books are just stacked in spots. We don't have room for them.
Yeah. Gotta get them on the shelves. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So real quick, let's think about the tough things you've done in life, and just let's say maybe the past 6 months, something that you've done that is tough, that you just had to overcome, that had to prove that you truly are tougher than life. And whatever situation you're in, mentally, physically, spiritually, what have you done, and what have you learned from that?
Yeah, well, life is all about adaptation. Just like on the battlefield, enemies always adapting to us. We're always adapting to the enemy. Same thing in life. So we have a special needs child, our middle child, who needs 24/7 full time forever, and he has since birth. So a daily thing, what keeps me up at night really is providing a full uh, lifetime of full-time care for him, especially if I go outside and get hit by a bus or whatever else. Like, he needs to be taken care of forever. So you have a choice about how you're going to deal with something like that, and it's a conscious choice. Like, you have to you can either kind of wallow and do the why did this happen to me, which is very selfish. I mean, think about what's happened to him. But I guess that's an option, but it's not a very good option. It's definitely not the one that is the most productive, not just for you, but for those around you, more importantly. So that's probably the hardest thing that we have dealt with and continue to deal with daily. But I look at it like, hey, we got it for a reason, and that's because we're strong enough to help him reach his full potential, whatever that might be, which we don't know yet. So that's a daily thing, and hopefully our kids look at that and say, oh, look how mom and dad dealt with this, and hopefully it makes us more loving, compassionate people as well. So I try to look at it through that lens. So it is a ton of work, particularly for my wife, particularly when I was going down range to Iraq and Afghanistan, when that pendulum is on the side of the team and the family is over here, and the pendulum is over here because on the team, because that's what you owe the guys to your right and left. That's what you owe their families. That's what you owe the mission. That's what you owe the country by default. So that's just that's just how it has to be. But now that pendulum is swinging back, and although I'm very busy every day and I'm building this business and I'm writing and I'm doing all these things, well, now it's all about that passion for writing, which allows me to continue to move towards along that path of my mission, which is taking care of our family, particularly our middle child. So I would say, yeah, that challenge has been the toughest. But you get to choose how you're going to respond, how you're going to adapt to that, and you get to choose whether you're just going to be miserable about it, or if you're going to try to turn it into a not necessarily into a positive, but you're going to deal with it in a positive way for you, for him, for the rest of the family, for everyone around you. So that's a conscious choice.
Yeah. Man, I love how you put that. It's not, you don't necessarily turn it to a positive, but you deal with it the most positive way. That's some deep. I'll probably be thinking about that tonight when I'm laying in bed. So that's key and that's critical right there. Um, before I ask the last question, I want to be respectful of all your time. Please just tell everyone where they can find the Devil's Hand and all the specials that you have going on, and also about you.
Oh man, thank you. So yeah, the book comes out April 13th in hardcover, in audio, read by Ray Porter, who's now playing Darkseid in the new Snyder Cut Justice League, who's an awesome guy. Ebook also at the same time. It's available anywhere books are sold. And there's a few different places that have signed books. So that's on my website. If people are looking for those, or with book plates, I do some limited edition book plates to drive some traffic towards independent bookstores. Those are kind of wrapping up right now so that they can get the books to people on the day that it comes out, April 13th. So had that going on. And the podcast, Danger Close, Beyond the Books with Jack Carr, a new episode comes out every Wednesday on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which I think is just under Jack Carr, and on Spotify and on Apple. And what else is going on? Yeah, the website is officialjackcarr.com. People can go there to find those reading lists or that gear, go a little deeper into some of the weapons and things that are used in the novels. So, and I'm Jack Carr USA on the social channels, and Instagram is probably where I'm the most active. So, I was sincere, and I use it as a way to say thank you. I just love to say that's my favorite part of social media, is being able to say thank you to everyone.
Yeah, I must be honest that whenever I saw Jack Carr followed me on Instagram, I might have got a little bit excited just out of respect and the fact that you are, as such an esteemed author in my book of, as myself trying to be an author. And I really love how you've gone after your passion, your calling, not, in the military and as a writer. And seeing people do that has really encouraged me to sometimes drop some of the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing to actually go do what I'm called and needed to do. So I really appreciate you for that. Yeah. Before our last
Thank you
question.
so much, and I appreciate all your support. I mean, yeah,
So the last question, Mr. Carr, is a dream
yeah,
hunt
go ahead,
or adventure.
sir.
You can go anywhere. You can go
Man,
after anything, any weapon, but most importantly, who are you going with?
ooh, that's a good one right there. Who am I going with? It's my daughter, my wife, our youngest son. So family for sure. But gosh, I've been so fortunate to get to go on some amazing hunts, and I don't really have them prioritized like future ones at all, because the opportunities come up, and it's a yes. It's I'm not necessarily like waiting for that one. I've always thought about doing this one thing, and I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that. No, it's there's all these different hunts come up, and I just love them all. But I guess what I would like to do is go to. I haven't done any hunting in Europe, and I'd like to do future novels, but also just explore the different hunting cultures of the different countries in Europe, because they're also different from one another, and so I really am fascinated with that, and especially that hunting culture over there, so different from ours, and I just don't know that much about it. So I want to go over there and explore, because just for that history and that tradition that they have, that's just so closely tied to the history of those different nations. So I'd like to do that as well. And then as you're doing that, I'm collecting stories, getting little insights here and there that I can use in future novels. So that's, I guess, if I was pinned down, I would say that. But I love elk hunting out here. I love when I have a moose hunt on the books for September in Alaska again. I love got a lot of hunt on the books. So So looking forward to getting out and getting after it. But yeah, I think Europe would be the place that I would say I'd like to kind of go and explore next, just because I don't know that much about those different hunting cultures over there.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate, like I said, I appreciate you just watching you from a distance, being a fan, and I would love to someday be able to hang out and maybe go on a hunt or just go shoot an archery challenge or something like that with you. But just being able to see all that,
Awesome.
yeah, to see all that you've done, chasing down your dreams. You truly are tougher than life, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. Sincerely appreciate it. Sincerely appreciate your message and what you're doing and how you're doing it. So it works both ways. And sincerely appreciate you having me on. And hopefully we'll link up in person one of these days soon.
I hope so. Now that maybe we'll be back to semi-normal.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we're getting closer.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Remember, stay humble, be hungry, get healthy, and always be tougher than life.
Someone's gonna lose, but I can guarantee it ain't gonna be me.